Hey there, welcome to episode 29, MicroCon interviews. Yes, we continue our series of MicroCon interviews. This interview, episode 29, is our interview with Maury Brown. Who is Maury Brown, you ask? Not only is she fabulous and fantastic and a whole bunch of other words that describe amazing, because I always say amazing a million times. She is the creator of New World Magischola. For those who don't know what that is, it is a LARP about going to Wizard College in North America. You heard that correctly. It's freaking awesome. And she's also the executive president of Learn LARP, which is a company that she has also created to help use gaming and especially LARP as tools for education. And part of that is also New World Magischola. So we sat down with her during our wonderful MicroCon interviews that, again, our wonderful friends at Lost Colonies LARP helped put together for us. And we sat down with her and she talked about her inspirations and, how she came to create New World Magischola and Learn LARP and all the things that she does and is trying to do and will do in the future as well. So if you get a chance, sit down, sit back, and listen to this wonderful, wonderful interview with Maury Brown. You can find all the information about the New World Magischola at magischola.com. That's magischola.com. And you can also find out more about Learn LARP at learnlarp.com. Again, this is one of those interviews where the sound quality was not where we wanted it, but again, we're putting it out. You can still hear it. It's still viable. You can hear us have the interview with Maury Brown, hear all of the wonderful things that she had to say. But again, we apologize for the sound quality and ask that you bear with us as we are continually growing pains of a podcast. Yes. Now we get to the part where we say thank you. We say thank you to you, the listener, who is actually giving of your time to listen to the crazy, crazy ramblings of two intermediate guys, old man and skinny guy. Thanks for listening to us, especially our patrons who not only listen to us but support us in the things that we're doing, trying to do for the community, trying to put out to make the community more positive. Our patrons, you're amazing, you're awesome, and you, the listener who may not be a patron, you too are amazing as well for giving us your time and listening, and hopefully being inspired by some of the things that we are saying, and hopefully by some of the people that we are interviewing, because that's why we interview all these folks. So with that, we will continue on with episode 29, our interview with Maury Brown, creator of New World Magischola. Enjoy. Thanks for sitting down with us today. We have with us today Maury Brown, and she is a co-lead organizer for New World Magischola. I always screw it up when I say it, so I apologize.
You got the hard word. You got Magischola right.
Okay, and New World I had a problem with. And you're also. What's your position with Learn LARP? What are you?
Oh, I'm the president of Learn LARP, and we run immersive participatory theater and LARPs. That are often destination events.
Okay.
But also we run them in conventions, and we've got a LARP in a box that we've published, and lots of things we can talk about.
All right, great.
Oh, nice.
That's great. But yeah, I will say right off the bat, we have interviewed a number of people who have already talked with us about their experiences with New World Magischola.
Yeah, a lot of people with some very positive things to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, when Joe put all this together, he was like, oh yeah, and Maury Brown, and this is who she is. I was like, oh yes.
You can talk to the maker.
Yeah.
You can criticize all you want.
Oh no! We don't want to criticize.
Yeah.
We want to learn more.
Yeah.
So how did you get what was obviously your inspiration is the wizards and all that great stuff, Harry Potter and everything. But how did you do that? How did you put it all together? I mean,
the short version or the long version. Let's see.
We can go long. It's all good.
I guess that I'll give you the medium version. I started LARPing with World of Darkness, like so many people did, and
like many of the people we've talked to today. Yeah.
And I did that for a little while, and I left because I enjoyed it, but I found a lot of limitations. And I enjoy tabletop games that have mechanics, but when I'm role playing, I didn't enjoy pausing to stop to roll a dice or do a card pull.
Yeah.
For those things, because it really broke the moment for me, and also it didn't feel realistic because I was in this space and I was talking to you and we were going to work these things out and what's going to happen. And so I stopped. Also, I had children. So
that'll do it too. Yeah.
Kind of does it. Then I was, I'm an educator and an instructional designer. And I did a lot of simulations and role play design in education. And through that time, I teach English and literature. So yes, Harry Potter came out. Harry Potter first came out, I was working at Barnes & Noble, and we did the Harry Potter party for the release of The Goblet of Fire. And I had a pre-release version of it because they let us get it and read it so that we could be ready for the midnight release. Yeah, and things. And so it was originally called Harry Potter and the Triwizard Tournament, but then changed to Goblet of Fire. So the one that I have is actually a copy with the previous title. But I had it in a brown paper wrapper on the beach reading it so that nobody could know. And so that I had it read, and then we sold out of 900 copies on the first night in an hour.
That's wild.
Yeah. But so yes, I'm definitely a big Harry Potter fiend. There are a lot of things that I like about it. There are a lot of things that I wanted to change. So then in 2014, over in Poland, some folks rented out a Polish castle and said, "Wow, this is perfect for a Harry Potter LARP." And so they ran the first Harry Potter LARP, and I heard about it. Went, what? I've never been to Poland, but I'll go for that.
Suddenly I'm on the plane.
Yep. And so I did. I just I went by myself to Poland to this LARP, and had a heck of an adventure getting there. The plane was late, and then I was 2 hours late to the castle, and I had to navigate the Polish bus system. And,
Were you much of a traveler before that?
I had been fairly well.
So you were seasoned at least.
I was, thankfully, but I was also challenged because in rural Poland, I don't speak any Polish, but I do have some basic German, so I was able to get by a little bit with some German, but the Polish language it looks like Klingon to me. Like I can get by in cognates in German and French and Spanish, but I got there and I had a fantastic time. And here they were role playing without dice and mechanics and these other things, and so we were figuring out what was going to happen, and we were
because a lot of that was more collaborative, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a big deal which is our play style. Yeah, it is very Scandinavian, is what I've discovered, is that these were mostly Scandinavian players. I was one of 3 people who had come from the United States. And Scandinavian culture is very egalitarian and has a lot of social safety nets. And they are consensus-based, and they're very used to following rules and very non-American. Right? Right? And so their play style is actually much more consensus-oriented. And one of the funny stories is that an organizer tried to do what we would call sort of a typical faction LARP in the United States, where you come in on a Friday night and you're in Group A, and Group A hates Group B, and Group C doesn't like allies with B but doesn't like A, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
And there's limited resources, and we have to figure it out. And they introduce it all on the Friday night, and you're supposed to come to the big battle on Saturday, right? Well, they introduced it with a bunch of Scandinavians and Dutch, and by midnight on Friday night, they come out going, "We have a solution."
What?
Yeah, and the game runners were like, "Wait." And they said, yeah, the heads of the groups got together and we sat down and we figured out we would share the resources and we would do these things in the territories, and we have a solution. What's next? And the LARP runners were like, who are you people? But
you're supposed to fight and spit at each other.
Yeah. And so I saw that and was like, okay, that's really cool that they're playing collaboratively. Could we do that kind of style in the United States? And the answer to that is yes and no. Yeah. It's a lot harder because we're a very competitive culture and we're very used to our games giving us control that we may not feel like we have in our daily lives. And they actually go to their games to get risk because their risk is mitigated so often in their daily lives.
Right.
So it's very, very different. So after going to that game, I came back here and was like, I could do this in college in the United States. We don't have castles.
Right. Not exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. But
I feel like every LARP organizer that hears that is just like, yeah, I know how that feels.
Yeah. Darn it, we don't have castles. So, but we do have Gothic university campuses. Right? And so, and it's supposed to be a college. So I was like, why don't we set Wizard College on a college campus? And so I got with my partner, Ben, and I was like, this is a crazy idea. And he was like, let's try it. So we said, well, if we're going to do this in the United States, we want to write our own magical universe.
Right.
It needs to feel like there's a magical world in the United States. It's one of the things that I didn't like about Harry Potter. I'm an Anglophile. I get it. I like the British culture. But it's a very small part of the world that doesn't really touch with them so much outside of the world. And even as she's later on decided that there is magic in the United States, like the way that she's done it has been very frustrating for me because it's like, there's not very many of them. Like this entire giant continent, and there's just not very many of them. So we wanted to look at something that felt like North America, and also to deal a little bit with North American heritage. So we're the melting pot here, right? And so we're going to have magic cultures that come in from Europe and that come in from Africa and that come in from the Caribbean and come in from Asia, and that we're here with our indigenous peoples, and build from there. So we started writing, and it's like we're not just writing a game. We were writing this.
You're building a world.
Building this giant world, with like 500 years of magical history. And what did wizards do during the U.S. Civil War? Well, I don't know. I guess we have to think about that. And what did wizards do when the U.S. was putting Japanese citizens in internment camps? Well, I guess we have to think about that.
Yeah.
So we went with this concept that's a little bit more like the Masquerade in that rather than like two worlds that J.K. Rowling has.
Yeah, that are somewhat separate but kind of on top of one another.
Mm-hmm. We did a little bit more like it's just a sort of hidden underground that there's this they do interface with the mundane world, but they need to keep themselves hidden, like the vampires keep themselves hidden. So, and that worked. And we thought, well, maybe we can get 80 people interested in doing this. So the first one was we had to convince the college campus that we weren't crazy.
I'm sure that in itself was a task.
Yeah.
Speaking to venues and like campsites and like, we would like to run around your site for a weekend and hit each other with plumbing supplies. How does that sound?
Yeah.
It's like you want to do what? It's like we won't break anything.
I promise.
Yeah.
No, so it took about 6 months and multiple presentations with the several universities, and then University of Richmond was like, okay, this sounds interesting. University of Richmond has these lovely Gothic red brick buildings, and they've kind of been called, people say it's like going to Hogwarts just because of some of how their buildings are structured. But we had to convince them to talk about magic and the occult. We had to talk about we won't be doing actual magic. We will not be summoning demons. these are adults, this is theater. Luckily, I'm an educator and an academic, and so I was able to talk to them on some academic level to talk about how role play helps build empathy and can cause people to learn things about their society. And but it had to go all the way to the president of the university because they were worried about publicity for University of Richmond and whether that would affect their endowment and all those things.
Yeah.
And so they eventually signed on. So then once we had the okay, we launched the Kickstarter in November.
Was that the first Kickstarter you ever worked on? Or?
It was the first Kickstarter.
How was that experience?
Kickstarter. I'm more seasoned at it now, but it was a nerve-wracking Kickstarter. It's the months and months beforehand building. We were releasing one house per week, and we were releasing lore and getting it built up and getting followers and.
Yeah, getting word out there. Because you don't want to just start the Kickstarter and then start advertising. You want the advertising in place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so for a good 6 months beforehand, we were releasing the crusts and talking a little bit about the world. And there was some hype building, which was good.
It did go somewhat viral for a while there. Yeah. So you expected 80, you were saying? 80,
yeah, we were hoping to get 80 people.
How many people did you actually get the first time?
The first year we had 450. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I think I'm actually short selling. No, because the first year it was over 500. It was 500 because we ended up adding the fourth event. Yeah, so over 500, yeah.
So a little bit successful. Yeah.
It was insane. I was in Poland because I had gone back to the castle and was there with the Danish and Polish group because they had been told by Warner Brothers they couldn't do Harry Potter LARPs anymore. And so they were trying to build a world that was there. And they punched the button to start the Kickstarter at 7, and it sold out in 2 minutes.
That's wild.
Wow.
And I've never seen, watching the number on the screen.
Just growing.
And it's like, what is this? And then we were like, hold on, let's launch the second event. So it took us 10 minutes to add all the little things to Kickstarter and went through, and then we were like, okay, we're going to launch the second event. And then the second event went. And so within an hour, the Kickstarter was at $165,000 and all the tickets sold out. And so...
Yeah.
So we were like, I think Americans might want Wizard School.
Yeah.
And luckily I'd already talked to the university about having a third and a fourth event in pocket. And so we launched 3 and 4. And it hasn't been that big every year since then. Mm-hmm. We ran 4 events last year, and this year we're running 2 summer events. But it's been going fairly well. It's still very hard to make money on LARP.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people see that there was $300,000 on the Kickstarter, and they're like, I'm like, well, if I had taken that and run off, then I would have some money.
I would be considered successful.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, I gave the university $220 of that, and then we had to buy robes and buy all the...
Right.
And pay people, and...
Yeah, things cost money.
Things do cost money.
Cost a lot of money.
And it's weird to be in those sorts of numbers.
Yeah, and then even once you have some of that stuff that you can reuse, you still have to store that and maintain it and transport it and
so many things.
All these things cost money.
Yeah, I'm $230 a month on the storage units for the props and the robes and stuff. I just spent $250 dry cleaning the robes prior to the summer events. So
I'm sure everyone that's going to wear those robes appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes. The Febreze method that a lot of things use. It only works but so well. Yeah. So that was a bit of a long story, but you got the starts of New World Magischola from.
So how many people are involved at the core of it with organizing the event?
We usually have about 24 staff that are there on site. Which is pretty high for 150 people, because they're also being our NPCs, and so our NPCs run a lot different than what most people expect from the Bopper LARPs.
Where it's if you go as a player, you're spending some time.
You take a shift, as the NPC, and also our NPCs. So our NPCs play multiple roles, and they're not just squishies. They're not just
they're not there to be swinging swords.
Right. Yeah.
There's only so much murder that goes on at Magic School. I mean, some.
There's so sad about it. We're like, murder's bad. Do you see the rules? You're going to go to disciplinary tribunal.
Murder is bad.
It was a bad person I murdered. Well, okay, but
But it's still murder.
it is in fact still murder. So our NPCs work a lot different. So we're they're a big cost to us in terms of staff because we pay to house them and we pay to feed them, which costs the same as it does for a player.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're running the costuming and the makeup, and we have a professional makeup artist there on all of our events, and we have lighting designers and
It's a production.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with 360 degrees of set, And so, how long were the events? They were over.
They're 4 days, 3 nights.
Wow, that's nuts.
It is nuts. We do a kids camp that is a full week.
Oh wow!
So,
in the same location? Or?
No, we do that at Swarthmore College, which has sort of the gray stone towers. We stay only in the old section of.
Was that one a little easier to get by we're doing anything for kids? Like
Swarthmore has a strong LARP culture. Already they have
they knew what you were.
They did,
Right.
and summer camps for kids are a little different.
Yeah.
But we still have to do. Crazy stuff that I never thought would happen. We had to get a waiver in Virginia because there is still a law on the books in Virginia about wearing full hood and masks in public, which has been on the books since KKK.
Yeah.
And so we have costumes, right, that are full head, full body costumes. And so we had to go through the university police and go through a thing. We had to tell people that there would be people in our gray cloaks, which are that staff that is going to set up something, and so you don't really talk to them. Right. They're just a spirit that's going by. But that also was a hooded thing, and we had to talk that if you see these things, don't get alarmed and call the university police.
Had to let the community around you
us know. Yeah.
So how much control did you have over the space? Like, was it just you guys there? Were there gawkers trying to stick their nose in at any point?
We had a few gawkers a few times, but the university police was great. Like, we were involved with the university police, and they would just, kind of come up and go like, hey, part of property.
Yeah, you need to not be here.
Yeah, we had like a news crew that came, and they kind of lurked around. We had 2 buildings that we had for classrooms. The one building we basically had all, just like we do at Mount Holyoke now. We're in the whole building, so it was just that building was
your space, yeah.
And but then there was a courtyard, and then there was another building for some overflow, which did still have a few university summer school classes that would meet over around in the back. And that's where the newsroom there was a cul-de-sac, and they sort of pulled around there, and we're trying to get footage.
Trying to peek through some slats or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, we got in trouble our first year because the faculty was role-playing drinking. They were in one of the rooms, and they had stuff in a classroom, right? And they were role-playing that they were doing shots and trying to get people to tell the truth and to do all this stuff. And so this administrator walks by and sees this person pretty convincingly acting drunk. Right? And going through, he called the police, right? And then the police calls me and goes, what are you guys doing over there? And I'm like, let me go investigate. And then I was like, oh my gosh, guys, they were acting. There's not...
I mean, to be fair, that administrator probably wasn't used to the idea.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. And the rule is no alcohol in classroom spaces. In dorm spaces is fine and stuff. But that's fine. It was funny. I was like, you guys are just too good. Too good at acting.
Yeah.
So.
I imagine that call to the police is just like, people are drinking at the college, you say.
Oh, the university police they were really good at it. And they actually really enjoyed a lot of it. We were like, okay, players, if the university police walks up to you, though, they are the university police. Yes, you need to drop character.
you need to talk to them like a human being.
Yeah. This is not funny. Do not.
Do not wave wands in their face and try and get them to leave or disappear.
Yeah, that's like a weird thing that we've talked about in the past. Is like when people go to like cosplay conventions and they dress up as a character and they think that it's okay to do everything that character does, which oftentimes can include inappropriate things.
Yeah.
No, you don't suddenly have license now to get away with it.
Right.
Like, you are still you, and we will send you to prison. Like,
yeah, no, very much so, very much. And there were certain things, wizards fine, they were okay with wands. we couldn't have anything that looked like a gun or anything that, looked like a knife or a dagger that was visible or out, because that would be a weapon on campus and people couldn't necessarily tell them apart.
Right. Were you allowed to have, like, walking sticks or wizard staffs or anything like that?
We didn't have staffs either.
Okay.
We just went with wands.
It's not really a big... Oh, I'm thinking of Harry Potter, not your world, but like...
Yeah. Well, we had, because I also
think
people had orbs and some people did magic without wands and things.
Oh, cool.
And we allowed them to have Bother daggers that they could use like in a ritual in a thing, but they couldn't wear it so that it could be...
you could just have it around, yeah.
So that it could be seen, because somebody might,
think it was real.
Yeah.
Right, because it's part of theater at that point.
Yes, yeah.
But, so obviously there was influences from, Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your other influences when you created it?
History, of course.
Yeah, you're talking about, we have to consider all these events.
Yeah, so what we did is we wanted to create, I can't help it, I'm an educator. Right?
Yeah.
And so this is the beauty of literature, right? And this is the beauty of, in particular, fantasy or science fiction literature, is that you can create these worlds that parallel the world you're living in and give you the alibi to explore certain difficult societal or personal or relationship issues in this other world, and then go back and think about how that might play out in your world. So you have dystopian and utopian worlds like that, but that's what fantasy really, really does. So Ursula Le Guin is just my favorite. Was, as a teenager, when I was in college, I took an anthropology class called Fantasy and Social Value, and we read Ursula Le Guin, and we read Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov and a few other things, and really looked at the societal aspects within fantasy. And I've seen it happen, as I've taught literature over the years, where, we read Fahrenheit 451, and then, some people get it, the thing about censorship or the thing about Nazis or, the things, or sometimes they don't get it until years later, right?
Yeah, they're not ready for it yet.
Yeah, and I've had students of mine call me up years later and go, now I know what we were talking about. Right?
No, now I get it.
I get it. Oh, well, very nice. Your frontal lobes came in. Very good. So Le Guin is a huge influence there. And Octavia Butler, just the explorations of looking at things like gender and things like societal norms. So my big hypothesis when I wrote New World Magischola was, can we put together a community out of game and in-game that changes up societal norms to allow people to play in this world where the norms are different and experience what that's like and change the behavior when they leave the world.
Can we actually teach something with this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so looking at research from literature and things like when people are taken to a poor neighborhood, a slum, and then they're suddenly see in real life the real issues that people face, their empathy goes up and their willingness to donate or to take action on things goes up. And we know that happens some in literature as well, because you identify with the character and you're beginning to understand things and points of view that you maybe hadn't thought of before, and it changes how you think. Well, combine those two things, right? And I want the embodied and immersive experience of like taking that trip, right? And then the alibi of the character so that I can let go of my preconceived notions or try on a new identity or do something I wouldn't have ever done because I'm too worried what other people might think of me or it's against my previous training, right? And then put those two together. That's what we want to have happen when in the role-playing games that I make.
Right.
And that's what my dissertation's about. We have found that it does work. It does. In particular, one of the things that we did was all the characters are gender neutral. So players choose what gender their character is. They is the default pronoun in the Magimundi. And so everyone is they until they correct you and tell you, or their names or their pronouns are on their name tag. That you do all relationships and all kinds of family structures are in the world. So one of the things that made that interesting was like, if you look at Harry Potter and you have the God, I don't even remember what they call them now. Purebloods? They're not unsoiled. That's my word.
Yeah.
But everybody's, it's a mother and a father, and it's going down. So we were like, so you're from this family that has 2 moms, and you're from this family that has 2 dads, and you're from this family that has a dad and 2 moms, and you're from this family that's a big, polyamorous communal sort of thing where you have 4 half-sisters, and, right. And you're from being raised by your grandparents, and you're, all those sorts of things were written in, so that things that became normalized in the world was not a strict heteronormative patriarchal structure.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned using the pronouns on the name tags. I know that I've seen that in other places. Other games are starting to either utilize that or to offer that as something that they're just putting into the world.
Yes.
I believe at
Dystopia Rising.
Living Games Conference. I believe they do that there as well.
Yeah, this was I've been to all 3 Living Games conferences. I can't remember if 2016 had the pronouns on it, but they were on it this year. 2018. And Event Horizon, which kind of spawned the great people there. Books had come to World Magischola, and then they decided to do a sci-fi thing, and it uses a lot of the same things that we had done. And then they also used they as the default pronoun, and then they built planets that had different gender expressions and different things. Right. And they also used pronouns in the name tags. I've written an article looking at the pros and cons of it, because there's no one great way other than making pronouns visible and not assuming pronouns. Like, that's the baseline. Right. But some people like them better on stickers or ribbons, buttons, and some people like them written on the name tags. I'm sort of an advocate of on the name tags because it normalizes them, and then they're everywhere. Whereas if it's in a ribbon, some people choose not to put a ribbon on, or a button. Some will have it and some don't, and then you've got the whole, well, do I need one? Should I put one on because I'm afraid I'm going to be misgendered? Otherwise, it's just on everyone's name tags. But there are good arguments about people who may want to change what pronoun they're using, and if it's written on the name tag versus on a sticker or a thing that they can't change, that also need to be considered.
Yeah. Like, how readily can you adjust it?
Exactly. But we've gone with pronouns are like, you tell us what they are. The pronouns for the character can be different than the pronouns for the player. And we have them on everyone. Everyone has them. And if you don't know, you say they. And then we did a pronoun correction mechanic that we came up with so that it was normalized to correct, so that you didn't just keep taking.
Okay.
If you were misgendered.
How could you describe the mechanic?
Sure.
I'm curious.
Yeah. So you use it either if you're misgendered yourself or if you hear someone misgendering. So if someone is talking about someone and you know they're using the wrong pronoun, then you just simply say pronouns, and then you give the correct pronoun. So pronouns, she, and the person who is talking pauses because they hear it, and then they should say, they repeat back, she, and then they can go back in their sentence and say it again, or they keep going. And so we also have had people can use the pronoun, the P symbol, if someone's talking and you don't really want to interrupt you can just keep flashing the P symbol.
Yeah, you're making the shape of a letter P with your fingers.
I am making, you can't see it, for the listeners who can't see my hands. Yes. I'm making the shape of the letter P, which is the British Sign Language for actual P. The American Sign Language one, it doesn't look
it also doesn't show up well on audio.
Yes, also doesn't show up well. So, but there's a couple of expectations that are happening there, which is one, you don't let it stand, right? If you hear it and you notice it,
you address it.
You address it. You address it quickly. And you address it. Oh, and the other person's supposed to say thank you. I did forget that part. So it's like pronouns she, and you're like, she, thank you, right? And so
you make it things are better now.
Things are, yeah. And otherwise, it can turn into this. Otherwise, it can turn into an issue for everybody because the person who's misgendered is feeling
misgendered,
and misgendered and problematic. But then they say something, and then the person who did the misgendering sometimes falls into, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I went right. And then now the person who was misgendered is like doing emotional labor to try to calm the other person, and you've lost the role play, right? And the stuff. So by creating this, like, you're going to be corrected this way, really short, really good, keep going. And if someone is clearly doing it on purpose or using it as a microaggression, then you come get safety staff because it's not tolerated. And that has worked well. We've gotten a lot of people saying that they really appreciate that because, and sometimes it's happened to me. I have to be corrected over and over again because I might use she correctly and then later misuse her because it's a different pronoun.
Right.
Or because our cognitive load when we role play is heavy, right? And so, and that can also usually diminishes as role play goes on because you get tired or you need more water or whatever. And so remembering all the different levels of things, of lore and character and proper pronouns can become, hard to do. And so recognize that you might have to correct multiple times, recognize that you might be corrected.
Right.
Multiple times. So.
And mostly just trying to take the, make it concise, address it, move forward.
And move forward.
It's okay that it happened.
I mean, it's not great. But
it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah. I guess is what I really mean by that.
Yeah.
But correct yourself and move forward.
Yeah. I mean, we've had to deal with talking to people, we know that if you're misgendered, it hurts. And we're not trying to police your feelings about that. It is bad that it did hurt.
Right.
Let's fix it. Right. And if you are unfortunately, triggered or really passed on that, then we have that other mechanic they can use if they need to go, and then they'll go talk to safety and go from there. Because you can't always stop how you feel.
Right. Sometimes it's just too overwhelming and you need to take that minute or 5 or 10, whatever it is.
And I mean, this is true in general at LARPs, not just with pronouns. Sometimes things happen, if you're playing, especially like more Nordic style games are more, some can be more involved in the experience of bleed and feeling the emotion that your character is feeling, which can be intense. Or maybe someone someone actually literally slipped on a stair and hurt themselves. Like you need to be able to address dangers and issues and problems.
Well, that was another thing that was one of my design goals when we built New World Magischola was this just like players are more important than characters, right? And or the story, or the event, or anything, right? It's like the players are the most important because there was, really strong culture of hardcore that was in a lot of the LARPs where it was like, if you're out there and you're tired and you can't do it, but if you leave, then you're going to take shade from people's, including maybe the organizers, or take an actual hit to your character's thing because
because you missed something.
Because you missed it, right? And so I really wanted to rewire that to be like, look, if you need a nap, take a nap. Like we're not gonna
you're speaking my language.
Taking a nap, right? Or if you're in the middle of a scene and your stomach starts gurgling, or you suddenly realize your blood sugar's down, or you just are like, I'm just not into this, right? Like then you can bow out and go, and people are like, it's as if you were never there. They don't suddenly.
There's none of that societal repercussions for all that.
And so it's just that language of being people having real people needs, and then being called a snowflake or being told they were a bad role player or all sorts of things that were really really happening. Was like
that's still happening.
And that's still happening. Yeah. And so it's like no, you're a human being, and so let's go. And because we don't have strict combat numbers, there's not really a way to cheat.
Gotcha.
I know sometimes people were worried that you're challenging me and you're definitely about to win, right? And so I go, of course my stomach hurts right now because you're about to win, and I'm gonna leave, and you're like, cheater, right? But you should be going, wow, if she's doing that, it really should be, you should be trusting that it really was a real thing. We'll pick that up later. But also, it's America, and it's really, somewhat hard sometimes for people to think that they're not trying to game that system. But it requires this level of trust. Like they're leaving because it's real, right? It's a player need. It's not a character need. They're not trying to get out of it in character. And I need to respect that. It happens the same way with consent, right? If someone says no, it's not about you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but we have a tendency to want to make it about us because a lot of times we come to games for power. Well, Americans, in particular.
Well, you were saying that you were having some games over the summer. What kind? All right, say I want to come. I actually do. I actually want to come to an event. What would I expect on the first time I come to an event? What would be that experience that I should be looking forward to?
well, you go to wizard school. Yeah.
Oh no, trust me. That's like I'm jumping up and down. I got my letter.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I mean, you go from an in-world thing. Basically, you arrive and it's the start of the semester, and you're given your robes and you're given your textbook, and you're welcomed by the chancellor and the faculty, and you are told about things that are going on in the school, and you have clubs, and you meet the people who are in your house, and you meet, if you're first year, you're waiting. You get 24 hours before you're sorted into the house. So this year we have 50 of our 150 players are playing first years because they want to be
they want to be sorted. That's awesome.
And so and you meet the faculty, some of whom are squishy and cuddly, and some of whom are dubious and problematic, and you have your house parties the first night, and you go through, and then you have 2 full days of wizard classes, and so you take classes based on your major that you get to pick, but the majors crisscross in terms of some of the classes. So,
right, so you get some mixing of populations.
Yeah, and so you can be a healer, an astromancer. Astromancer does with divination and other types of spirits and orals and other worldly things. You can be a curse breaker, which deals a lot with rituals and runes and hacking things and laying wards. And you can be a marshal, which is a wizard cop, or a wizard lawyer, wizard bureaucrat. They're all sort of all in there.
I never knew I wanted to be a wizard bureaucrat until right now.
Well, see, the wizard bureaucrat, that's one of the things that our world built, was like, wizards have jobs, right?
Yeah.
I just want to do flummoxing magic.
See? Yeah. Well, no, we definitely have, we have the people who are looking at influencing the Milliken's market and doing predictions and prophecies for
I love a good dollop of mundane.
Add a little dollop of mundane.
That's great.
Yeah. So you're taking classes, and you take 6 classes, and you eat with your house, and you're involved in clubs, but you're also involved in different things that are going on. You know how students and faculty are. So this faculty is doing some research, and it's a little bit problematic. They're using sentient creatures as lab rats,
So are the classes sort of seeding information about what's going on? And
so we try to make you're also learning how to play through the classes too, and so are you on Thursday night, but they will work a little bit together. So things and you're given homework, because they're little questy things that you can do between first day class and second day class. And so it's very multi-threaded though, so I might never find out what you're doing. Right. Other than, you might do something fun. You're a curse breaker, and somebody told you that in the fountain, there's something strange, and you go over there and you find a rune, and you're solving that sort of thing, and you go back to your class while the healers are dealing with somebody who's inflicted with this disease, and they have to figure out, and they have to get unicorn blood, ethically sourced only,
That's great,
or something. And then we have.
Then we know what the magical bureaucrats regulate.
Yeah. Well, see, one time last season we did have the Archjustice come, because they were worried that World Magischola was teaching too progressive ideals, and so the bureaucrat had to come in and be a baddie. And then we have a wizard ball. It closes with a wizard ball. And then our second semester events, you can graduate your character and you get a wizard diploma.
That's great. That sounds like so much fun. Yeah.
So it's basically, you have to try to remember that if you were in the mindset of a young adult, unless you're playing faculty, but also the world is such that your magic can manifest at any time. And so if your magic didn't manifest until you were 32, right? So
we were talking about it, I was wondering, it's like, are we all playing 9-year-olds, or are we playing college students?
No, it's Wizard College. So you've all been to MicroCon1, which is Wizard Secondary School. And then if you have the money and the chops, you can go to Magischola, which is the only way to get the degree of wizard. Otherwise, you're just a mage and you're cleaning the funicular networks and stuff,
Oh, man.
So New World Magischola is designed to be the state school, kind of like.
Gotcha.
There's the Imperial Magischola is for the people who are like,
the hoity-toity.
Yeah.
It's the Ivy League equivalent.
Yeah. And so New World Magischola in lore was founded because Imperial was founded in Massachusetts in the 1600s, and it was just for males. And Virginia Dare in the lore had a daughter, and she was like, I want my daughter to go to Imperial. I want her to get a university education in magic. And they were like, no, And she was like, no. And then these few other founders, Tituba and Calisela, Etienne Brule, decided, well, we'll make our own school, right? And did it, and then Marie Laveau joined later. So the school was founded in opposition from the earliest to the norms that were starting to be set up.
So obviously there's a lot of lore that was developed.
Yeah.
Where can people go and find all this information? Like, is this just out on the internet, or because I know there was all sorts of, we were looking at one of the textbooks before, that there's physical books that were made, there were Kickstarter rewards, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, the Compendium of Creatures, we did end up writing an entire magical creature textbook. It's because we needed magical creatures, and we wanted them to be North American, right? We didn't want to just keep doing the same ones. All right, there's dragons and phoenixes and stuff. So let's look at North American lore. And, okay, the Sasquatch is real. It's a magical creature. The Chupacabra is real. It's a magical creature. Right?
I already think I know what I want to do. I just want to keep saying Chupacabra for 4 days straight. Like that's all I want to do. In wizard robes, like learning stuff. I think that's.
Yeah, so you can be a cryptozoologist if you want.
Oh yeah.
You can go through. But Magimundi. So the name for the world is Magimundi. So like the first part of magic, MAGI, and then MUNDI.wiki has a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Some of the stuff you won't get unless you're signed up for the game, or soon we'll be publishing a world document book so you can play in the setting.
Oh, great.
But there is a fair amount that you can see there. You can see about the provinces and the provincial history. You can see the crests of the school. You can read about Imperial. You can see our new lore about corruptors in the Whisper Realm, which we're really excited about. It's a way for us to have demons without having demons, right? Because, again, we're trying to skirt any of the things that people have preconceived notions about the occult and about demons in particular. So it's a way for us to have extra planal entities that are trying to break through into this world, or could potentially try to control humans or do things. So that's brand new. And we've also written an entire fairy world for the North America too, called the Miraven. That's brand new now. So that you only see snippets of that just yet.
Oh, that's good. That's
so
awesome.
We're like, of course, North America doesn't have Irish Celtic fairy. Right? North America has, there's different folk here. So
that's awesome.
That's what we did.
So I mean, this sounds like this takes up like most of your free time.
Pretty busy.
Yeah. So where do you have the time to do Learn LARP?
I know. I do just some educational consulting and working with schools and with some corporations on bringing role play in with their professional development. I haven't been able to do as much as I want to do. I'd like to be able to do like certification that teachers can get in creating role play activities for their students. But I do have certain modules that are sort of similar to Reacting to the Past, but our Reacting to the Past is a whole curriculum now that is role play of actual historical events. So a teacher can take this curriculum mod and run the Bay of Pigs, right? And somebody plays President Kennedy and somebody plays John Foster Dulles, and they're playing out what it was like to try to make the decision for Bay of Pigs, which is cool and definitely experiential learning. But the problem is everybody knows how Bay of Pigs ends, right? So they're playing towards a specific end.
Right.
So what I do is I come in and say, okay, what were the information things and the ethics and the issues that they were weighing when they were doing the Bay of Pigs. And then I write a fantasy module that parallels what was going on with the Bay of Pigs, but it's dealing with somebody from planet B and somebody from planet C, or it's dealing with a different type of weaponry or, anything like that.
Right.
And so when they go to play that out, they don't know where they're supposed to head, right? So they're actually wrestling real time and seeing how action has consequence, right?
So does that ever come back around to the actual, historical event that it's sourced from?
After it's run, you do hey, you guys were learning. Didn't know you were either. Yeah. So an example is, I drew up this mod that has to do with vampires, in the Magimundi. And basically, we've run it with students and things before, and they decide that they should round up all the vampires and put them into like a specific space that's theirs and theirs alone, right? And keep the vampires safe over in this area and out of the rest of society. And like, we just let them run, right? We just let them run with this. And then we get to the end and go, what does this sound like to you guys? You know? And then finally, like,
a little familiar.
And then finally somebody will hit and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you know? And they're like, see, but you guys thought you were doing something nice, you know? Or my favorite one was we had a mod with the mermaids, that there was a problem. We had a problem with the lake because of introduction of non-native species that was crowding out species and causing changes in the acidity level in the lake. And so that there were 3 mermaid sturpies in the lake, and their spawning grounds were affected by this. And so they had to, the mages had to try to figure out a way to help the lake or help the sturpies get along because they were fighting, right? And going through. And so they would think the solution was, we'll just transfigure the mermaids and give them legs and bring them out onto the land and let them assimilate into society while we fix the lake, and then then they can go back. And then, you know, people start asking the questions like, so is that a problem to you? They're no longer mermaids, right? Yeah. They're no longer who they were. And then there was where are they going to live? And what are they going to do to make money? And who's going to take, you know, and they just started. You just say, they'll assimilate. Yeah,
how?
They'll assimilate. Yeah. And so it really gets people, you know, thinking about these things. Yeah. They think they're solving a mermaid thing, and then they go, right.
It's oh, just because I said we could do this thing and the problem is not there anymore doesn't mean there aren't many more problems now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's as you can tell from my tone of voice, I get pretty jazzed about doing that. And so I'd like to see that stuff collated into a curriculum and really get out there. But
how often do you actually go out and do these little, you know, mods for
in the schools?
Yeah.
It's only been about 10 times in this past year.
Okay.
So not huge, but I do have a teacher in Las Vegas who I didn't have to go out. Like, she came to Magischola a few times, and then she's actually run Wolf by Any Other Name, which is our published LARP in a box. She and I worked together to change it a little bit for 5th graders. Okay. And she's run it in her classroom for 5th graders, and this because that one deals with what if your friend's a lichen? Yeah. And lichens aren't allowed, and it's the full moon and you're stuck, and your friend needs this like really expensive potion, or else they're gonna transform and you know, maybe hurt people, but also out themselves as a lichen. And she's watching that with the 5th graders, watching them go, I didn't like being a bad person, you know, and stuff. And we're like, hey, right? And I wanted to help my friend, and you know, and not do. Is really neat. That game's really neat because it comes out different every time. Yeah.
So you said that when you first started talking about, you know, where Magischola came from, you talked about going out to Poland, playing there. Have you done LARP before that, or
designed LARP before that, or played LARP before that? Because I had played in the in Vampire.
Oh, that's right. You did tell us that
in the 90s, and then I had a long hiatus. And
that brought you back, or
I also had gone to Threads of Damocles, which was a sort of a theater style kind of ongoing campaign thing for about 4 or 5 years in the Northern Virginia area.
I feel like I've heard of this.
Yeah. It was Gordon Olmsted Dean and Kurt Dankmeyer and you know, a few others. My friend Carol had kept up with LARP. Carol didn't have kids. But she and I had gone to the SCA stuff and some of the vampire stuff back in the 90s. We were undergrads together. And she was like, oh, you can come to NPC at the Threads of Damocles. It was their finale. So, and I had a blast because lots of different things, and NPCs, I still enjoy doing it because you get to do a million different things. Yeah. Some people that's really hard for. They can't switch that easily. Yeah. I actually played 10 different NPCs in an hour.
That sounds exhausting.
It was exhausting, but it was really fun. It was like a big improv show, right? And then I was like, okay, you know, and I started looking into a little bit more of the theater style LARPs that were here. But I wasn't a big LARP designer. But I realize now that what I do is I merge instructional design with game design. And so all that time that I was doing things like we're reading Ender's Game, in ninth grade English, and I've built this thing where you're playing a psychologist and you're playing a judge and you're playing, we're going to put Ender on trial for war crimes. And
yeah. Ender the Xenocide.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've run that every year in my classrooms, right? I was running educational LARPs, right? They all had characters, they had goals, they had to produce documents, they had to role play it.
That's great.
And we didn't know every time was Ender going to get convicted. Somebody was the PR specialist that was like trying to portray Ender as the hero. They were analyzing based on different kinds of psychological profiles and different sorts of things. And so I was like, but I was doing it at school. Right. And so World Magischola was kind of a giant thing to make for someone who hadn't built up a huge repertoire of smaller LARPs before.
No, but it's obviously hugely successful. I mean, and
it makes my weird circuitous life make some sense because I started out in corporate communications and learned a lot of how to run. I had to do the annual report for a bank and different sorts of business things. And then I worked at Barnes & Noble and I got my MFA and then I've been in education and I was always an SCA and a D&D'er. And so being a LARP organizer, but particularly owning a LARP business is like the number of hats that you have to wear is
many.
And I was like, well, they all are skills that I sort of developed that are all making sense in a way now, so it looks like I meant to do it.
Right. I meant to do that. Yeah. Like making it look good.
Yeah. Which is so not the case. It was like, why are you rebooting again? I didn't like what I was doing.
Well, no, but that goes into a lot of like the folks that we've talked with. It's just like they wanted to see something different that they weren't seeing, or they were inspired by something and then just took it to the next level. And that's what it sounds like, exactly like what you did, which is great.
It is great. It's hard.
Yeah.
It is super.
Well, anything worth doing is not going to be easy.
Well, I mean, we had people that we told what our magic system was, which is consent based and receiver decides, right? And so and people were like, this will never work. Everybody will just cheat. Like two different people developed magic systems that they were like, here, let me fix it for you. Right?
That's a thing that happens. You're running any kind of event or you have people come up like, oh, here's how you can do it better, kid. It's like, thanks. No, thanks. Like,
appreciate your input, but this is how we're doing it.
There's like good ways to like be like, hey, I think this is problematic. I would like to talk to you about it. Sure. There's right ways to do that, and then there's some people that will just be like, hey, kid, let me show you what you're doing, bucko.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Well, and that happened because we looked like we were very new to the scene, and also I'm a woman, and so there's LARP is an industry. Gaming is an industry is still very strongly dominated by guys, and so there are very, very often that I'm the only woman in the room or a collaborator or things, and so it's not that much difference than some other places in the business world. It's a little bit more like being an engineer than being an English teacher because there definitely are more women English teachers. True, but you hang in there, and sometimes you. But
you're kicking in the door and you're showing them, hey, you all had plenty of time to come up with something similar. If you wanted.
And luckily,
you were the one that went out there and did the legwork.
And some of them are saying, okay, wait, maybe we should actually think about some of the safety and calibration stuff now because. You can have players rage quit or players, and then that's not helping anybody. And so if you think about how to treat, and also I've been doing a lot of stuff with pre-game and post-game stuff. I have an article about all the different post-play activities and then getting people ready to play in your game and then pulling them out of the fiction because the fiction does affect you profoundly.
Yeah, that's a very... it's used a lot in the Nordic games, I find. Where you have sort of the
debrief.
Yeah, there's the debrief at the end, and then also the sort of, what is there a term for the...
De-rolling?
No, the beginning.
Workshops, just generally.
Just workshopping.
Yeah, so when you come to Magischola, you have 4 hours of mandatory workshops. We teach you how to cast magic, which is kind of important. But we also teach you how to treat your players and how to play collaborative. We have to teach people, especially in the United States, how to play collaborative.
Some people might not realize it unless they've taken the step consciously to do this themselves in their communities is wrangling a community of people is social engineering. You can not think about it, and the community will do what it wants to do, for good or for ill. Or you could take a conscious effort as an organizer to build a community to act a certain way, and you can set expectations and ground rules for how they should treat each other and how they should be interacting and communicating in this community.
Absolutely.
Which is part of the reason that we do this. We say this all the time on the show, but like, we want to highlight the good things that are out there in the community that people are doing, that they're putting forth, and make sure people see it, they hear about it, they know where to go to look. There are people that are creators like yourself that are doing all this legwork, that are putting the foundation down. You don't have to start from scratch anymore.
That's exactly right.
There's so many people out there that you can reach out to. You can go and see what they're doing. You can participate in what they're doing. You can support each other, and we can build up that community in all different ways.
I love it. Yeah, the reinventing a wheel all the time is it definitely keeps you spinning on just the hamster wheel, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And so there are a lot of people out there doing it. I don't even want to think about how many D&D hacks that exist in the world.
Sure,
but
I think we're trying. It's interesting as the LARP industry versus LARP hobby maybe sort of starts to grow. Like, we all know each other, and most of them have come to Magischola, as Event Horizon got started, Peculiar Crossroads, Hanging Lanterns, Sinking Ships, a lot of these different smaller Reverie studios, a lot of these smaller ones. And so that's cool, like the 3 people from Hanging Lantern came to NW Mule, and just after NW Mule, they announced Real Royalty, which is taking place in May. And yeah, we are learning from each other, but then we're also beginning to compete with each other, which, but
it's a nature of an industry. We say it a lot on here too. There's only so many weekends.
But if we can expand the number of people who feel like they can and want to LARP, then we're going to raise the tide for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've tried to look at them not as competitors, but as compatriots in trying to say LARP is a much broader thing than what comes to most people's mind, which is hitting people with sticks in the woods.
Yeah, the rising tide mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I was going to say, so you were sort of mentioning, destination experiential games a lot, and obviously Magischola sort of falls into that category. It's not like you're running Magischola every month with an ongoing story.
No, the Magischolas are once in the summer, and then Yuletide escapades in December. So yeah.
And then you also alluded to, are there like 2 semesters worth of Magischola?
Yeah. So you can come to 2 different experiences.
Are the stories always changing, or is the story for the first semester always the story for the first semester?
Okay. Every time. Yeah.
So you're still getting that. You can have that ongoing saga at the game. Are people able to keep the same characters?
Some do. Okay. We restrict it to you're in school, you need to graduate. Yeah. Right? so we let people play the character 3 times because they do begin to accumulate some power and some headcanon that may not jive with a brand new player because we don't keep 100% continuity. Like if they do something in one Magischola, that doesn't mean that it always affects canon.
Right.
Okay. Right. Certain things might, but not everything.
I think we were told a story where students were trying to drop an island from the sky or something.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. That's not going to drop. You can try.
But they tried. Yeah.
We tried to assassinate an archjustice. I'm like, he's like a 400-year-old wizard who's been there since 610. Yeah, you little whippersnapper students are gonna do that. Yeah,
we got this.
Yeah.
It's like I'm all about freedom in storytelling, but we got to put reasonable constraints in the world.
Well, there's also it's the hot-headedness of youth, right? And so I'm okay with them trying dumb things because that's what you do, right? Like, this is an outrage. We should do this. Let's just do propaganda by deed. That's a great idea, right? Let's show them. We'll crash the island, right? And you're like, son, pats on the head, right?
It's like,
that's sweet.
Yes,
that's sweet.
We'll take something with everything you're doing and run with it.
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly.
We're going to make something cool happen because of what you do, but you might not get the exact outcome you wanted.
But that's part of the fun that people enjoy when they come to the games. Is because the people will say to me things like, "I want to cure aphotic bane," which is one of our incurable things, and I'm like, great, you and everybody else, right?
Yeah, start doing some research.
Yeah,
kid.
So you can do something, and maybe it works a little bit this one time. Does that mean it's generalizable and that it works forever? No. Yeah. Or did you actually have something that worked a little bit? Oh, great! The pharmaceutical companies that are marketing the medicine that they need are not going to be very happy with you because they want too. So yeah, we were able to tweak certain things where they get.
Now I'm thinking of magical cease and desist letters. Like,
no, it's so much fun. And I get to make snooty magical names like J. Bocephus Cornelius Hildegard von Popperstein.
That's the perfect name.
Yeah. Chancellor von Popperstein. They will never get called Pooperstein. Of course not.
So you mentioned people playing the teachers and whatnot. Are those also players, or
They
are
are.
those okay?
Yeah.
So you can opt to be either a student or a teacher.
Yes.
Is there a limitation on how many teachers you have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have 20 teachers in a full game that includes 2 assistant professors that move around. We have assistant professors somewhat logistically because sometimes professors, they're supposed to teach 3 classes a day, and then they have the rest of their time they're getting involved in professor plots or in student plots or drinking in the faculty lounge, right? But if you can't teach your class, an assistant professor can go and always send an NPC in.
Yeah.
But we work with them because the professors are actually sort of, in LARP terms, developing small mods, right? Each class is like sort of a 45-minute mod. And they're collaboratively developing it with us because we want to make sure that the mods are active and interesting,
right.
and that there's some connections among them.
You don't want Professor Ben Stein just standing up there with like a pointer.
Yeah.
As you can see.
And then they're all like, if we were doing that, we would do it on purpose with something funny that would have to happen in the back
to
of
get
the
them
room,
out
right?
of there.
Out of their thing. But there's a lot of whimsy in the world because magic is unpredictable. Like that's one of the things that I didn't like about certain magic systems is like, okay, sulfur beats Benzor every time, right? And so I'm like, no, magic has to do with who you are and how you're feeling at the moment and what other environmental factors are going on and how strong your intent is and if somebody's shielded and you might just mispronounce it, right? And so we have this mechanic for misfires, right? And also these people are supposed to be learning magic, and so they have way more confidence than you should, and so you try things that shouldn't, so things go wacky, things go sideways all the time, and that's a lot of the experience, because what that does, it creates great role play, right? Yeah. As opposed to, gotcha, right?
And also,
now what?
And also something that does is you don't have fixed numbers to say, no, this is how I win.
Yeah.
So you get rid of that whole, like, I'm going to win mentality just by not having rules for it.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of rules. The rules are how you treat each other and how you don't mess up that sort of thing by just going, yep, doesn't work.
Right.
And if you don't take any magic ever, like, people just stop playing with you. Yeah. And so then you realize, okay.
It's like, what do I do now?
Yeah, you like, if someone casts a spell on you, you take it, and you get the role play that comes from that. But
yeah, because when things go wrong, that's where the story is.
That's where the story is. Yeah. And so I love doing that. I just love kind of messing with story.
So we're at the end of it. Yeah, we're at the end of it. But is there any advice that you would give to someone who wants to create or wants to be part of, putting something out into the world that's going to change things for the better? What kind of advice would you give them?
Start from your vision, from whatever it is that's bugging you, right? Whatever it is that you want to change, and then figure out what kind of story would get that experience for people. What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to learn or understand from it? And then do it. Write your story. To me, I would put in mechanics last, right? Mechanics are how the thing moves. But you start from, and it's educational, backwards design. This is where I want them to end up. I want them to know this or feel this or experience this.
Right.
How do I tell that story? And trust your players. It's so hard, but the most powerful experiences are ones where you have to sit back and go, I've given them the sandbox. I've put the boundaries on the sandbox. Given them the tools. Somebody might go up the slide instead of down it, right? But that's the story they're going to tell.
Yeah.
And you're watching that happen, and you're going, no, don't crawl up the slide. But you can stand back and watch and let that trust, because it's going to be all the more powerful when they feel like they've had that impact rather than just following a script. So, but that's actually really hard to let that go. You do have to have the structure set up. And talk to those of us, if you're interested in doing LARP, or those of us who've figured out where some of those holes can be in the sandbox that can be exploited wrong, and we'll, we want to grow this, and we want people to go forth. So Get some mentors and build your team, and make sure it's diverse, because you only always write from what you know, and your players are going to be diverse and have different experiences, so you want to make sure you think about that, so your team should be good.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Advice.
Yeah, thank you so much for sitting with us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's been great sitting down and talking to you, but with that, we've been Old Man and Skinny Guy.
I'm Old Man.
I'm the Skinny Guy, and we'll catch you next time.
And remember, don't dream it, be it. Take care.